No matter where you may live, it's getting hard to ignore the uptick in natural disasters and climate changes that appear to be plaguing us all around the world lately. It's also getting hard to ignore the fact that something is wrong. Our governing men and world leaders have given us various reasons for these earth changes, but can we really trust that they're telling us the whole truth? As of late, we've been told that it's El Nino and the unusual warming of the coastal waters. Some say that it's the planet Nibiru and that the Death Star causes this destruction when it returns. Initially, we were told that it's due to global warming because of the hole in the ozone layer. But this goes against the fact that 83 billion tons of ice is still forming in Antarctica each year, and they forget to mention that only the west coast is actually melting. But it would do one good to research the McMurdo military base, established in 1958, the world's largest research facility, and also the possible culprit for that hole. Others still believe that the government is manipulating the weather through HAARP. For those of you unfamiliar with what HAARP is, please listen closely to this short briefing.
I wanted to ask a couple questions here about HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities here. So questions to several of you this morning. I'm told by the president of the University of Alaska that the Air Force has pulled its support for the facility, and they're taking steps to demolish it or take it down this summer. He's making the argument that there is other opportunities for us, and is trying to find a path where the university might be able to take title to the facility. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Prabhakar. I understand that a lot of folks here on the committee probably don't understand what HAARP does. I think most Alaskans don't really know what HAARP does or why the agency is involved in it. So a very brief explanation, and then a more direct question. Would you be disappointed or would you lose something if HAARP were to go away?
Senator Murkowski, as I think you know, one of our programs has been using the HAARP facility for the research that it's pursuing. And my understanding is that we did get value out of that interaction. The P in DARPA is projects, and we're not in the business of doing the same thing forever. So very naturally, as we conclude that work, we're going to move on to other topics. So it's not an ongoing need for DARPA, despite the fact that we had actually gotten some good value out of that infrastructure in the past.
Understood. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I've mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that the plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the HAARP?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HAARP in the past. We took over from the Navy and managed it and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HAARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it. And, but that work has been completed.
From extreme floods to massive earthquakes, the ring of fire now all lit up. All of the sleeping giants from the civilizations of antiquity have now awakened. We have mass animal die-offs of varying kinds happening all around the world. With all of these things going on, one can't help but wonder if we aren't in what some would call the last days. Certainly, something strange is going on with the weather.
We have 500 days to avoid the climate chaos. Very important issue of climate change, climate chaos, and I said that we had 500 days to avoid the climate chaos, and I know that President Obama and John Kerry himself are committed on this subject, and I'm sure that with them, with a lot of other friends, we shall be able to reach a success in this very important matter.
Now my question to you, my friend, is this. How could he have known almost to an exact date how long we have before extreme climate change? But note, he didn't just say climate change. He used the words climate chaos. This should have you seriously thinking right now. How could he have guessed? The answer is because there is no guessing, but instead an actual science. And he knows this because he has knowledge of the Earth's hidden records. And over the ages, the Earth's rulers have always kept this knowledge from the hands and minds of the commoners, and they've always used it against them. Watch this short clip from Mel Gibson's Apocalypto for a better understanding. Now, you have to understand that there has never been a time when a leader has ruled the people that leader did not possess this sacred occult knowledge. And if the leader did not possess it, then whether Pharaoh, king, or queen, they had to have someone who did, as was the case with Queen Elizabeth I and her infamous Dr. D. This practice still carries on today. We simply call them advisors. But nonetheless, they had to have someone who had sacred knowledge, well versed in all things concerning the earth and the sidereal heavens. Occult knowledge. The word occult simply meaning hidden or secret. From time immemorial and to the best of his ability, man has always recorded the history of the earth as well as that of the heavens as they saw it. And it's these records that modern man can hardly decipher today, and the elite will hold the knowledge therein. The information that is allotted to us is partial and biased, to say the least, for they never truly disclose anything openly, and so by doing this, they retain power and control over the masses. Usually, the information that one seeks is right before their eyes. But if you don't understand their language of signs and symbols, well, then it won't matter that you see. For you'll be just as Jesus Christ himself stated, ever seeing, but never understanding. The main reason for the secrecy is because man has always adored and revered those with great knowledge. And great knowledge has always brought to its possessors one of two things. It either brought them to great power, as it did with King Solomon, or to great despair, as was the case with Galileo. Poor Galileo and countless other innocents persecuted by the churches and states for simply having knowledge and trying to share it. the same knowledge that caused his grief? Every grade school student must learn today. And for this very cause, men like Nostradamus, Da Vinci, Sir Isaac Newton, and countless others had to write to us in secrecy and codes concerning our future estate, with the greater parts of their works being held secret until after their deaths. The information that we are about to share with you concerning the earth changes is held sacred by the elite and those of secret societies. Christianity itself being a secret society in its beginning, and Jesus Christ being Grand Master and High Priest of the Order of Melchizedek. But it was only after one had reached the highest degree of their order that this information was imparted unto them. The information is so sacred that if you were to Google this word, NARONIA, you will find very limited sources of information, one of which being a video that we released 2 years ago, touching only lightly on the subject. We will now read to you from the elite's sacred book of knowledge, so that you can know what they know and believe concerning our world. We present to you The Light of Egypt, or The Science of the Soul and the Stars, Volume 1, by Thomas H. Burgoyne, also known as Zanoni. Write the things which thou hast seen, and the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter. The mystery of the 7 stars, which thou sawest in my right hand. Revelation chapter 1, 19 and 20. The symbol upon the cover of this book, The Light of Egypt, is complex in meaning. It is the symbol of spiritual initiation and means literally, I have pierced the illusions of matter, and I am conscious that I am divine. The 7 stars represent the 7 principles of nature. The serpent represents the objective phenomena of life, and the arrow piercing the serpent represents the human soul, which is conscious of its origin, power, and destiny. The name Zanoni means Zan, a star, Oni, a child of or son of. Thus, Zanoni means son of a star. The double Z, which we know as the swastika, means completion.
Chapter 7, NARONIA, the mystical cycle of the sun. The real secrets and the inner mysteries of the sacred Naros appear to have been entirely unknown to either medieval or modern writers. In fact, the most prominent writers upon occult and theosophical subjects generally avoid all mention of it, or, if they do express their ideas, it is only upon its cosmic or external aspects as it applies to the macrocosm of the sidereal heavens. But of its spiritual and mystical importance, as it applies to the human soul of the microcosm, they are universally silent. Briefly stated, the Naros, in its astronomical and physical aspects, is a luni-solar cycle of the period of the sun and the moon, and is completed in 600 years. And strangely enough, Such a period also coincides with some remarkable revolution in the mental and theological affairs of humanity. Hence, a few extracts from prominent writers will not be out of place to prepare the student for that which is to follow. Madame Blavatsky, speaking on the Neros in Isis Unveiled, Volume 1, pages 31 through 33, remarks that he, G. Higgins, fails to decipher it. The cycle is made apparent, for as it pertains to the mysteries of creation, this cycle was the most inviolable of all. It was repeated in the symbolic figures only in the Chaldean Book of Numbers, the original book, which, if now extant, is not to be found in libraries. To the foregoing, we may also add, neither will this Chaldean book be found in the crypts of Tibet, Madame B, to the contrary notwithstanding. She very pointedly tells her readers where they cannot find such a book, but very wisely maintains a discreet silence as to where this rare book can be found. The learned Countess of Caithness, in her recent volume, The Mystery of the Ages, mentions the Neros on page 361. To the Christian Theosophist, Jesus is a manifestation of Adonai, the Christ or Christ spirit, of which whom there have been many incarnations on this earth, and he the fullest and most perfect. They believe him to be the guiding guardian protector of this planet during his particular cycle, and that in coming to it, he comes to his own, not only to instruct, but to give fresh impulse at the end of certain periods of 600 years, called Nerosis or Naronic cycles. And it is scarcely necessary for us to point out that if the Neros is, as the authoress asserts, founded upon astronomical science, then the cycle is an astronomical fact, and as such is capable of mathematical demonstration. Consequently is, and always must be, totally independent of the existence of individuals. In fact, an astronomical cycle, if true, possesses no real relationship with any personality, human or divine. And this being the case, the Naronic cycle will remain just the same truth upon the plane to which it naturally belongs, where the Christian Jesus is proven to be either myth, man, or God. Neither does the genuine student of occultism care very much in which position the supposed Redeemer is placed by the masses. Therefore, the statement of the author is that without the actual physical incarnation of the personal Jesus, this theory of millions of ages would prove to be a vain delusion is the very height of mystical absurdity, and the self-evident inanity of such an illogical argument must surely become apparent to all reflective minds. The learned Dr. Kennelly, Q.C., in his book of God, makes mention of the Neros upon pages 52, 53, where, viewing the period as a messianic cycle, he remarks, "This Neros is the luni-solar Neros, or Sibylline year. It is composed of 31 periods of 19 years each and one of 11, and is the most perfect of astronomical cycles, and although no chronologer has mentioned it at length, it is the most ancient of all. It consists of 600 years, or 7,200 solar months, or 219,146.5 days. For our Nibiru fans, take note of its importance in the Great Cycle. And this same number of days, 219,146.5, gives 600 years, consisting each of 365 days, 5 hours, 51 minutes, and 36 seconds, which differs less than 3 minutes from what the length is observed to be at this day. If on the 1st of January, at noon, a new moon took place in any part of the heavens, it will take place again in exactly 600 years, at the same moment and under the same physical circumstances. The sun, stars, and planets will all be in the same relative positions, and in corroboration of what this learned doctor says, Professor Cassini, one of the great modern astronomers, declares this Naros to be the most perfect of all periods. From this, then, we see the utter nonsense of modern theosophical mystics trying to twist and warp the harmonies of natural laws to suit their dreamy, sentimental speculations. The Naros exists in spite of each and every attempt of hallucinated mystics to make it conform to their erroneous doctrines. The lunisolar cycle of 600 years is the absolute measurement of mental development, and the lunisolar conjunction, which commences and terminates this cycle, evolves forth the embryonic conditions which shall, during its rule, become manifested in the physical world. It is not true from an occult standpoint that the Naros specially refers to the birth of some great savior or reformer. It is only true that the conditions which this Naronic conjunction evolve prepare the way and call forth the man or men who shall act as the pioneers in the world need of a higher and more liberal teaching. At the same time, it will always be found that some very prominent teacher or reformer is born in the world at about the same time, not definitely to any nation or country or exactly on time within a generation or two, but always near the period of the cycle. But such teachers and lawgivers are not the cause of the Naros, neither do they become incarnated to fulfill the cycle, as the Countess of Caithness very foolishly imagines, but they appear simply as the result of increased mental energies, or in the downward arc of the race they appear to crystallize the existing truths and veil those things which have ceased to be used and which may become a source of evil. A brief outline of this thread of mental evolution can be traced by noting that Gautama Buddha appeared in 600 BC or thereabouts, and that 600 years later, the Jewish reformer Apollonius of Tyana appeared upon the scene of the world's history. In another 600 years, Muhammad, with his warlike issues, came upon the plains of human existence. Another Naros passes away when we have a complete host of inspired reformers, and the Reformation begins. 1200 AD to 1300 AD, and lastly, we bridge yet another cycle of the sun and low. We have 1881 AD, and naturally all eyes are looking for another savior. The Adventists speak of the second coming of Christ. The Shakers claim that he has already come in the form of Mother Ann Lee. On the other hand, the Mormons say Joseph Smith is the modern Messiah. It is not, of course, necessary to say that all of these earnest and doubtless well-meaning sects are wrong, outrageously in error, because no such Messiah will appear, at least not to them. He will move in the world quite unsuspected as to his true and real greatness. He will do his work comparatively unknown to the world at large. He will be looked upon as an ordinary individual by those who know him. He will suffer the vilest kind of persecution at the hands of the inverse element who dread the force of the principles he will leave behind him. His greatest friends, though mystified as to his real nature, will never grasp his real reality until he is beyond their purview. The Messianic messenger of the ages will not be fully known until he has passed through the valley of the shadow of death and is beyond the power of the world to flatter or condemn. The Jews were looking for a monarch and a sign from heaven. The sign came, but the monarch materialized under a very different form from what they expected. He came as the son of a carpenter. So the Christians of today are looking for the pomp and glory of a celestial king. They too are looking for a sign from heaven. The sign came with the great perihelion of the planet in 1880 and 1881. And we may depend upon it that the teacher was there, ready and willing, but the world knows him not, nor will it. The time has passed, and he can only be known by the generations which are to follow. Hope, Faith and charity were the symbols of the Nazarene. They were needed in his day and time. But light, life, and love are the great requirements of today. They are the pressing needs of the hour. Having given our students some brief insight into the purely material aspect of the Naros, we will not speak of its infinite ramifications upon the physical plane, but reveal a hidden mystery. A mystery that many occult students have hinted at, spoken of, and even attempted to define. But so far, they have failed to grasp either its philosophy, basis, or its potency. The esoteric aspect of the Naros is known to the occult initiates as the mystery of NARONIA, and refers to the expansion and contraction of the human constitution. As a sort of illustration, let us take the motion of the tides, the ebb and the flow. When the sun and the moon occupy the same plane in reference to the earth, we have high spring tides, etc. It is the same upon the mental plane with the human brain. The brain of man magnetically expands and becomes illuminated by the lunisolar influx from the new to the full moon, at which time this magnetic force is at its maximum. It is high tide, so to say, and those who have the care and experience of lunatics will verify the fact that they become perfect astronomical calendars of the moon's increase and decrease of light. Let us take a step further, and we then come to the real dominions of NARONIA. She is the cycle of the soul and enacts upon the spiritual plane of human existence a similar series of events to those of the Naros upon the mundane sphere of life. Hence, we can trace a perfect analogy between the motions of the luminaries in space and the revolution of purely psychic entities within the idyllic sphere of man. Each year of life, the Earth in her orbit transits the point in space which she occupied at a person's birth, or in other words, the sun returns to the same sign and degree of the zodiac that he occupied in the horoscope. In this transit, the solar force renews the life energies of the soul and galvanizes them with additional force. We are speaking spiritually, understand? These germs of new forces are virtues, powers, potencies, and deific attributes of the great solar orb. They are spiritual ovums, or seeds of human possibilities, and if consciously nourished and cherished, will evolve powers and states within the human soul, which correspond in their action to our hidden spiritual attributes. If unnoticed, uncared for, they remain until other forces polarize them and then pass onward down their cycle. When the moon, in the course of her motion, arrives at the same place during each month, she impregnates these seeds and endows them with magnetic life. Therefore, in an occult sense, she confers upon humanity the powers and possibilities of magical forces. It is this luni-solar influx of NARONIA within the human constitution, then, that controls the real foundation and basis of spiritual development and occult power. Remember these most important facts, then, and guided by your own spiritual intuitions in the matter, use this knowledge according to the light which nature has already given you, or which you shall hereafter receive. We have revealed to you the mystery of NARONIA, have given you an outline sketch of its basis in nature and its philosophy in human evolution, as near it is possible without leading you out of your safe path or bringing you nigh unto dangerous grounds. For those who are ready to utilize this mystery, what we have here said will be plain and easy of comprehension. For those who are not yet ready, rest assured, it is wiser to wait until your spiritual nature is more highly developed. Thank you for watching. We hope that we have answered some of your questions concerning the elite. Don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss out on part 2, where we will reveal to you from the same book what the elite know concerning the dark satellite, the lost orb, and the 7 days of Genesis.